the meetings industry. And in case you don't know, this industry consists of like all the people who put on conferences, conventions, trade shows, forums, chapter meetings of associations, even sales rallies within companies. So they're the service providers, the speakers, the agents, the meeting planners, the venues, even the food and beverage people. So if you want to be a speaker out on the circuit, it really helps to understand the whole industry and what's happening so that you can find your place in it. And you can go to, meeting planners, international meetings. I always try to find my clients the leading edge information on what's happening in that industry, because it does change. And so if you can change with it, you're going to be more competitive, right? So before I had this other perspective, I was making a lot of the same mistakes I see speakers make. And, one of them would go like this. I'd hear about a conference coming to town, say, ophthalmologist, and I would call them up and say, I can speak on creativity or team building or workplace culture or fun at work or leadership or anything really. I just love to speak. And I'd list all these places I'd spoken, and I'd go, I'm really good. And they just wouldn't be interested. Why do you suppose that was? Well, because of my lack of clarity, which is mistake number one. It's a very hard way to launch yourself if you're kind of trying to be all things to all people. And now, quite frankly, there are certain audiences that I was a good fit for and certain ones that I wasn't. And same for you. And I'm sure you already know that, but just in case you don't, this is a really important thing to get in place before you start connecting with meeting planners. Like, you have a background, a style, and connections and experiences that certain audiences will relate to and others won't. But like many people in the early days, I wanted any engagement I could get. For example, a colleague of mine was sick and asked if I could take her spot at the last minute to speak. It was a plumber and welder conference, and at the time I was very green. I was the after-dinner speaker. At this particular convention, they weren't really interested in learning anything. They just put something educational sounding on the agenda to make it look good. They really came to drink, to get away from the hard work and the demands of family, get together with their colleagues and go wild. So by the time I get up to the mic, guess what's happening? Well, they're all drunk. They're not listening to what I have to say. And the only thing that I wanted to do was finish up as quickly as possible and go home, which I did. And I had to apologize to the meeting planner because I just said, I realize I'm not a good fit, but I recommended a ex-plumber friend of mine who kind of like a stand-up comedian who tells lots of drinking jokes, and they connected with him for the next time, and it was like a perfect fit. So another thing that was getting in the way of me getting booked with the right kinds of audiences was they had too many offerings. And this is a very common problem, not just for new speakers, but, veteran ones as well. So when I was going on and on about all the things I could speak on, I don't really seem like an expert to that meeting planner. It's like that old metaphor, if you need a surgeon to do your heart transplant, would you pick a general practitioner who dabbles in heart transplants or someone who is a specialist? People want experts who feel that you know their audience and how your expertise specifically solves a problem they have. So I thought about audiences that I loved working with and that seemed to love me and for whom I could solve their problem or help them reach their goals. And so who and what is that for you? What's an audience you love to work with and that love you? And what's a topic that solves their problems and helps them reach their goals? For me, those audiences tended to be where there was a large percentage of women who were big-hearted, service-oriented people. Those were my people. Human resources, healthcare, education, social services. So then I just had to narrow down my topic. So you need an entryway into the breadth of what you offer. So this often confuses people because they have all this great stuff that they can offer, but you need to get people in the door. And then once they're in the door and they know you and they like you, you can say, by the way, I also speak on these other topics. But have a lead topic is what I'm talking about. So my favorite topic was creativity, but there's again 1,000 ways you can approach creativity and 1,000 ways it creates solutions in an organization. So I was really interested in changing workplace cultures from toxic to enjoyable and healthy. And one of the best ways I knew to do that was to create a fun environment at work. So that became my main topic area, and I decided to really focus on human resources people to start with. And suddenly I was a much more sellable speaker. Here's another example. A client of mine, Ron Coleman, who was an accountant, was doing lots of training programs, a whole bunch of different industries on a whole bunch of different areas of financial management for your business. But what he decided to do was just one topic that he loved and that seemed to make the biggest difference, which was systematizing your business so that you could work outside your business and maybe sell it. You could be out on the golf course while the money still keeps coming in. And he wanted to pick a specific market where he had lots of contacts and he really liked those people. In his case was construction. So when he did that, his engagements increased exponentially because everyone in the industry talks, right? And that made a huge difference to his success. Plus, he went on to turn his keynote into a book, which you can do also, if you haven't already done so, repurpose everything into products that you can then sell at the back of the room. So let's look at the first page of your handout, and you can fill in the blank at the top. Get clarity on your offer and goal. But before we do that, let's just talk about types of speakers. First, there are what I call non-paid speakers who are doing it for practice or because someone asked them or to just build their credibility in their niche. Now, there are also non-paid speakers who are doing it to introduce products or services, and these are often called platform speakers. They do what's called education-based marketing presentations where they're demonstrating their value to their marketplace. So the majority of the presentation is useful, valuable content for people, and then you talk about products or services at some point in the presentation. Then there are paid speakers, and these could be small honorarium type, $500 or less. These kind of people who do low-paying speaking engagements are either they're new to the profession or just doing it as a sideline. People who want to be professional speakers get paid for speaking and do it regularly. They usually charge in the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. I even heard once that Bill Clinton was getting $200,000 for one speech. But within the category of paid speakers, you can also separate people out. One style is content speakers, and content speakers are experts in their field. Like a futurist who does research on a particular area and brings information forth that is unique, leading edge. They tend to customize each speech for each audience. But then there's style speakers, and these are people who are like amazing characters. They're storytellers, humorists, maybe musicians. They educate, but they're also highly entertain people, and they have this whole kind of shtick, a well-rehearsed performance. And I've done both. I've been a content speaker and a style speaker. I kind of combine them, and perhaps you do as well. And then there's the celebrity speaker, like Bill Clinton, Oprah Winfrey, could be the head of a corporation, an Olympic medalist, or, the person who climbed Mount Everest. And they essentially get paid to tell their story, and they usually command these huge fees. So just think about it for yourself. What are you? So now's the time to just, fill in the first 4 parts of your handout. Just keep it simple and specific. So the first is, who is your ideal audience? And the second is, what problem do you solve for them? And the more specific you can be on both of those, the better. And just list one right now. You can always add in more later. And what geographical region? All this is useful to know how to search for the right speaking engagements. Do you want to travel all over the world? Do you want to go within only 2 hours of where you live? That can make a difference to your search. And then, of course, what's your overall speaking goal? Are you wanting to be a paid speaker plus book sales? Are you a platform speaker? All those things we talked about. So once you have all that in there, let's look at mistake number 2. No sales system.